Hey guys, how are you doing? It's Gavin here from Start Fresh Personal Training, and today's little video is around about intermittent fasting and shift work, and it's kind of like a part 2 to my other video, which I'll link in the description. So when you're looking at intermittent fasting, okay, people kind of think that it's the be all and end all of fat loss. So what this video I want to explain to you guys is basically some of the benefits, kind of the proven benefits of intermittent fasting, and then how there's some do's and don'ts basically around shift work. And intermittent fasting in general, to be honest. So it's kind of a bit of a 101, it's a bit of an overview, and it's 5 or 6 things I'm going to cover at the end of the video, which are a result of questions I've been asked. And they're things like, should you put fat in your coffee, take BCAAs in your fasting period, and then I'm going to explain some important things around kind of the difficulties of intermittent fasting. Certainly around shift work and how to overcome it. So a little bit about me is that if you have not seen me before, I've basically been a shift worker for 17 years, working all sorts of crazy shifts in that time. And one of the things that I have done to help myself and some of my clients to lose weight is use intermittent fasting. It's a really cool way to do it, and to be honest with you, I don't do much at the moment. I do it occasionally throughout the year because it's not something I can personally maintain for a long period of time, but it does have its benefits. And although there's tons of studies out there's tons of people that know the the theory and all other things, but what not many people have done, certainly around shift work anyway, or at least not that I know of, is the actual practicalities of it. It's really easy to give you the theory. As you know, you do a theory for anything, any job, any shift worker out there will have the theory period. But when it comes into practice, it's not quite as simple as a theory. So what I'm going to try and do now is go over it, give you a brief 101 of what intermittent fasting is, why it's beneficial, and then some tips and tricks of how to actually do it while working shifts. It's going to be a really cool video. Something I've been working on for a little while, and now I think I've got it almost right. I thought I'll make a video to share with you guys, alright? So I'm going to give you the what and the why first of all. So what is intermittent fasting? Well, intermittent fasting is just that, fasting, okay? Now, what you probably don't realize or even thought about is that we actually fast every single day anyway. So by the time you go to bed and wake up in the morning, you fast. It could be 8 hours, it could be 10 hours. If you're super lazy or super tired, it could be 12. But essentially we fast every single day. So all the intermittent fasting is kind of more of a controlled fast and a controlled eating window, which means, and the one that I've personally done is the 16-8, which means you fast for 16 hours, then you eat for 8 hours. Now what this kind of does, and what I guess the idea behind it, aside from the benefits of intermittent fasting, is that you have a shorter eating window, which means you probably can't eat as much food in 8 hours as you could in possibly 12, okay? I can, to be fair. I can quite happily munch my way through a bunch of calories in 8 hours. But that's kind of the idea, okay? So essentially, why intermittent fasting is important or is beneficial is because it does certain things, okay? So you may have heard of ketosis. So what it does is that our bodies use glucose for energy. It's for our brains, for muscles, for exercise, for everything that we do pretty much. And when you force yourself into a fast, what happens is that your body will utilize or use up all the glucose in your muscle. Then at the end of the fast, the last couple of hours of the fast, it'll go into something called ketosis, which means it's used all the available energy in the form of sugar, and then it like flips a switch, click, and then it starts going into using fat for energy. That's the theory. But what we got to understand is our bodies metabolize fat at the same time anyway. So when I'm standing here right now, I'm burning fat, I'm burning sugar, and my calories, overall calories anyway, dictate how fast that happens. So if I was not to eat, if I was in a calorie deficit, which means eating less calories than I burn, that fat metabolism will kind of happen a little bit faster than if I'm eating tons of calories, far over my calorie budget, and I'll still metabolize fat, it just won't be as fast. So that's what you got to kind of understand. So there's obviously studies done, there's been tons of studies done and everything. Hope you can read my writings, a bit small, appreciate that. But some of the studies kind of show, right, for a start, that the fasting window manipulates your mitochondria. So your mitochondria is a little powerhouse in your cells, okay? And it produces the energy in your body in a kind of nutshell. But what it does is it manipulates the fasting period, puts a little bit of stress in your mitochondria, manipulates them a little bit. And what that does is it kind of like forces them to, that little bit of stress that's brought on by not eating actually helps with aging, okay? And it kind of prevents the natural sort of aging decline that we go through. This little shift then makes the mitochondria function better, which kind of like, you know, you can pretty much have a big period of healthy aging, so it's really, really beneficial in those respects. And you know, it helps with brain function and all those other things, and that's what these studies have kind of found out. But that's a study, okay? But what you got to think of as well, yes, this has good health benefits, but if it's something that you can't do, okay, for a long period of time, it isn't going to work for you, it isn't going to be beneficial. All these things are going to be, you know, these studies found that the periods of fasting are done over time. So if you're going to fast for just like, you know, occasionally, you're not going to get those benefits. If you find it really, really difficult, you're not going to get those benefits because you're going to be hungry all the time, you're going to be uncomfortable all the time, okay? So although that's what it can do for you, you've got to understand that it might not work for you. So that's what you've got to think of as well. So moving on to the kind of other benefits as well. You've got a couple of things I put on there. I mean, you can Google this information, you don't have to listen to me talk about it. It's out there for everybody. But what some other studies show, you get a reduced blood pressure. So if somebody's got high blood pressure, fasting could be a good option for you. And reduced cholesterol. And they're kind of like the lifestyle related diseases. So if you're somebody that's, you know, looking down the barrel of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fasting could be a really, really good way for you. Okay, these studies have shown that, and obviously, you know, these things come down anyway as a result of fat loss, and absolutely, it does help with fat loss. I've had some fantastic results in intermittent fasting, but there's a bit of a clause in here which I'll talk about in a second. Also, as well, you get increased cell repair. Okay, so you can obviously your body recovers a little bit better when you fast. And it'll increase your metabolic rate, which is always a good thing. You talk about people, you know, increasing your metabolism, burning more fat, and that does that. And it's probably down to a couple of the hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine, and they're kind of the flight and fight hormones in our bodies, and they sort of kick in at the end of the fast. I don't actually know why that is, but I would guess that, you know, when you get to the end of the fast, you're kind of hungry. You know, you kind of speed up because you're a little bit anxious. And that would cause your metabolism to speed up when you get to that point. I don't know, if you do know, leave a comment, let me know. And then you got other things like increased or improved blood sugar. So if you're somebody that's pre-diabetes or got diabetes, could be a really good option for you. Improves your blood sugar during the fast, and it helps with appetite control. And I can actually test to that as well, because when I was intermittent fasting, what I found was that yes, you know, I would get hungry and, you know, before I'd eat. But when I was eating through the day, I felt brilliant. You know, my energy levels are up, my gym improved, there's some of the really good benefits as well. My workouts improved, and yeah, I got some really good fat loss results. So there's some really, really positives. A lot of this stuff I can kind of attest to. But like I said, if you want some more further information, just type in Google's benefits of intermittent fasting, and there's tons of information on that for you to look at. So this is going to be my take on it. This is going to be where I bring the theory to the practicalities of it. Okay. So first of all, doing intermittent fasting, I did something else which really helped me, okay? And that was keep track of my calories. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you know I'm a big proponent of tracking your calories, okay? So I'm right here on the board, track calories. And the reason being is that what I like to do personally myself is to understand how many calories that I need to be able to lose weight, and most importantly, maintain my weight. And it gets pretty tough with shift work, because, you know, so many people talk about the bad sides of shift work, and the fact that, you know, you look at every study, 10 reasons why you put weight on when you work in night shifts. Listen, I've lost 20 kilos, I've kept it off for 7 years while working shifts. You don't have to leave this stuff to chance, okay? You don't have to accept the fact that because you work in shifts you're going to be overweight. It doesn't actually happen. But this is what I do. I track my calories, right? So when I'm tracking my calories, regardless of when I'm doing intermittent fasting or not, I make sure that the calories are right. And when I'm intermittent fasting, that feeding window, I need to eat the amount of calories that I need to be able to perform in the gym. Obviously my goals are to put a little bit of muscle on, keep my body fat low. Because if you just cut your calories indiscriminately without even realizing, what's going to happen is that you're going to find yourself very hungry for a start potentially, and then when you stop the intermittent fasting and you want to start eating breakfast again, you're going to probably eat outside the window. You're going to find that you're going to put weight on, because whereas if you think about intermittent fasting, I go through, you know, on a 20, let's just say 24-hour period. Say your last meal may be 8 p.m. And your first meal the next day would be lunch. So that'll be your 12 p.m. meal, and then obviously 12 till 8 is when you finish again. And if you crack in, you know, if you bust in a huge amount of calories in this place here, if you're still eating more calories than your body needs, you're going to put weight on, there's no doubt about it. Equally though, if you're eating normally between this 12 and 8 period, and all you've done is skipped out breakfast, you potentially save yourself 400 calories, okay, just by skipping out breakfast. That means you're going to lose weight anyway, just because you've cut out 400 calories from your diet, okay? You really think about that. So if you go start to eat breakfast again, that's an extra 400 calories to your diet, which means you're going to put weight on, or put the weight that you've lost. If you work out your calories at the beginning, to know how many calories you need to survive on, regardless of fasting or not, and for me it's 2,100 roughly, I'll eat 2,100 calories in this space. But if I start going back to eating normally, I will eat 2,100 calories throughout the whole day. That's the difference. Therefore, I'm able to maintain my weight regardless of whether I'm fasting. And that is why, to be honest with you, I don't fast all the time anyway, because I don't feel I need to. What I will do though is, if I was to say, you know, I've got a bit of summer coming up and I want to get a bit of six-pack or something, you know, or whatever it is, I will then decrease my calories and I'll squeeze it into an 8-hour window, because if I eat less calories over that length of time, I kind of find I feel a bit hungrier all the time. If I squeeze them into a shorter window, I feel fuller because I'm eating more in a short space of time. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's the first one. Really track your calories if you're going to be doing it. So I did quite a big video on intermittent fasting, and how I kind of worked intermittent fasting into around my shifts, okay? And I'm going to link that in anyway so you can look at it, and that's going to basically walk you through exactly how I do the intermittent fasting on a 2-2-2 roster. And you can apply that to, well, your own roster. It doesn't really matter what it is. But the most important key take home that you need to understand is that the fast is the thing that it gives you all the benefits that you want. I'm going to write that up there because I think that's really important. The fast, okay? It's a 16 hours, which means if you're working funny shifts, okay, potentially you may go from, let's just say, an early shift to a late shift. So for me, my early shift finishes at 5 o'clock. My last meal will be 7 normally. So then that means my next meal will be 11. So that's my 16 hours. But then I might be in work till 2 a.m. the next day. That's my big late. Which means that if I was to go from 11 till 7 again, and there's a huge period of time between 7 and 2, I'm not eating anything, and I might get really hungry. So what I'll tend to do in that respect is I will extend the feeding window. So the feeding window will go from 8 hours to 10 hours maybe, okay? And what I try and do is that I will finish my last meal 4 hours before I finish work. Because then that gives me 4 hours to get home. I'll have sleep for 8 hours-ish, hopefully if I'm lucky. And then I'll only have 4 hours in the morning to worry about my food. So the most important thing I have found, practicing this and doing this over a period of time, is the fast is the most important, and then extend the feeding window out just slightly. And that will help you, get your head around the fasting thing. And then you just apply it to your shift. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. As long as you fast for 16 hours, you might eat for 10 or 12 hours, doesn't really matter. There's tons of other ways to actually do fasting. You can fast for 12 hours on, 12 hours off. You can eat normally throughout the week, have 1 day fasting. There's tons of ways to do it. But from a fat loss perspective as well, when you start cutting out days of food and cutting out meals, you're essentially cutting out calories, right? But like I said, if you go back to the previous one, track your calories, you're going to be all good anyway. That's my Bulletproof coffee. If you've ever heard of Bulletproof coffee before, it's basically putting coconut oil or butter in your coffee. Now, loads of people will give you their opinions on it, and this is going to be mine. If you're going to, okay, so I think of it in 2 ways, right? If you want the benefits of fasting, then do not put butter or oil in your coffee in your fasting window, because fat is food, which means that if you ingest fat, you're going to be breaking the fast essentially. So if you break the fast, then you won't go into ketosis and you won't have the benefits of what we just spoken about in the studies around fasting. However, if you don't care about those benefits and you would just you're just reducing your calories, so let's just say your feeding window's in at 12 till 8, let's say, and you get really starving in the morning, and you chuck some butter in your coffee, two things are going to happen. A, the coffee itself is an appetite suppressant, and having the extra fat in the coffee as well is going to help you feel a little bit fuller, which means that you're not going to have those horrible hunger pangs in the morning, and it might get you through. All good, fill your boots, whatever you want to do. But if you want the true benefits of fasting, don't put any fat in your coffee, if that makes sense. You can do what you want, and you can try it, you can play with it. But you know, because at the end of the day, you're not eating breakfast and you're putting a knob of butter in your coffee, it might be 100 calories as opposed to 400. So it's still a win in relation to fat loss, because you're still getting a calorie deficit of 300 calories, if that makes sense. Same for BCAAs. A lot of people who exercise a lot will tend to put BCAAs and drink those in the fasting window. All good, okay? It's still protein, it's still kind of a food, I guess. Do I know the ins and outs of the science? No, I don't. But you can do what you want to do. If you're sipping on BCAAs helps you feel fuller, helps you deal with the fasting, why not do it? End of the day, there's nothing wrong with BCAAs. I've done a blog on that before. I don't really think they're beneficial. There's lots and lots of studies to show that as long as you're getting enough protein throughout your diet, BCAAs are not even really applicable, and it's probably just a waste of money, in my opinion. And I can link that blog up as well, if you want as well. BCAAs worth it. I'll link them down below. Up to you, do what you want to do. But yeah, if you want the benefits of fasting, don't chuck fat in your coffee. It doesn't make a lot of difference. Tastes alright though. Give it a go. Set an alarm. Okay, so as a shift worker, okay, you get a bit lost. Like I don't even know what day it is half the time. I just know it's an early shift, late shift, night shift, or day off. So what I was doing when I was intermittent fasting is that I was actually creating alarms in my phone. So as I said, making sure my fasting window and my feeding window were right. So what I would do is, if I finished, so like I said, whenever I finished my last meal, I would set my alarm for 16 hours down the track. And then when my alarm went off, I know it's time to eat something. And I was really, that took a bit of pressure off as well. It took a little bit of, the focus of trying to work out how many bloody hours, 16 hours from 2 in the morning or whatever. And that kind of worked for me. So that's another little tip for you can check in there. Set an alarm just to get those feeding windows in check, and you'll be absolutely fine. So obviously exercise is a massive thing, and I highly recommend exercising. So many benefits which you already know about. But what I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about is exercise. What can happen was that when I was doing my intermittent fasting, I was finishing work, so eating my last meal at 7 o'clock. So I use the early shift as an example. Then I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I would train, and then I wouldn't eat till 11 o'clock. I actually didn't mind that. I was drinking a couple of coffees in the morning. As I said, it's a hunger suppressant, appetite suppressant, and I was managing to get through to 11 o'clock. It took a little bit of time. I was drinking lots of water, which was obviously a good thing, but that used to be one of the hardest things. So if you can, and you need to work this out for yourself, because I can't tell you that, is that what I found was better was to work out fasted and then have my first meal after my gym workout. So if I was on a late shift, for argument's sake, I would go to the gym, then I'd have my first meal would be my protein shake or whatever I decided to have straight after my workout, and that helped me feel a lot better. But in saying that, you do what works for you. There's lots of people will say, to work out fasted, to work out fed, and again, it comes down, there's lots of studies to say it's X, Y, Z, but you've got to understand is those studies are marginal, okay? They're marginally results on a small amount of people. You've got to do what works for you. That's the biggest take home here, is that all the studies in the world can tell you the best, the good, bad, and the ugly, but you've got to work it out for yourself, and you've got to see how you feel. If you're somebody that hates to work out on an empty stomach, then you should eat and then go to the gym. If you're somebody that doesn't mind feeling a bit hungry and training on an empty stomach, then that's all fine as well. You're still going to get the overall benefits on it, okay? You don't have to worry about the tiny details. You just look at the big things. The calories in check, 18-hour fasting window, and keep, you know, and exercising and keep yourself healthy, and you'll be absolutely fine. Anyway, bit of a long video. Hopefully you got something out of it. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. As always, start fresh. If you don't make a change today, how will tomorrow be any different? But last thing, download my 7-step cheat sheet for shift workers. Bit of a tongue tie there, to help who want to lose weight. Okay, I've done it for 17 years, for 7 years. Put it all together in a nice, easy ebook. There's lots of cool stuff in there, so you can pop your email address down below and you can get that, and it'll be absolutely massively beneficial for you. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. Take care, and I'll catch you again. Cheers.